Welcome to the Growth Starts Here podcast. I'm Jamie Matashek, owner and CEO of Bloom Communications. I've spent the last 30 years navigating business challenges, and I want to help you skip rungs on the ladder. In this podcast, we will talk about business strategies and marketing tactics to drive your business growth. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this episode. Well, welcome to the podcast. Jason, I'm so excited that you're here today.
Me too.
For our viewers, listeners today, I just wanted to share how much you've been part of my personal journey. You've helped me through business coaching, through leadership, sales coaching, and even sometimes with an unofficial therapist.
That's the title on the back of my business card.
Unofficial therapist. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I just knew that based on the things that you have really taught me and actually drawn out of me in the last several years, that this conversation would be so impactful for other leaders, especially as when this podcast comes out, we'll be stepping into a new year. It'll be 2025.
Yeah.
And, it's a great time to just look at refresh energy and all the things that, we look forward to as the new opportunities in a new year. So I know this conversation will be great, and I'm super excited about it.
Well, me too. And, I think the world of you, so I'm honored to be here and talk about anything and everything that you want to cover.
All right. Well, let's dive in. You have just released, or not too long ago, your second book, which is absolutely inspiring and amazing to me. And it's called Done Before One. And what I wanted to have you share is, yay!
I should have it on the shelf, but I wasn't thinking ahead.
It's the way it goes. But it's an awesome book. Me digging through that has just been so impactful. Again, it's one of those things that I really view as an ongoing guide. But I want to stop talking and just give you an opportunity to tell us, why that topic. Why did you feel that the content, which is so rich, was such an important thing to release to the world right now for leaders and entrepreneurs?
Good question. Well, first of all, the big idea in the book is that if you can manage and learn to get your most important work done for the day before 1 o'clock, then the rest of the day can fall apart and you will still outproduce your competition. Or still, if you're not, in sales or anything like that, you'll still be a highly productive person in your organization. And so even though it's marketed via the subtitle and all the things I do at independent contractors and solopreneurs, I appreciate your point of view that the content inside applies to basically everybody in the modern working world. And so why did I write this book? Well, in a weird way, I felt like it sort of stalked me.
Do tell.
So it's my second book, as you said, and books come to me in titles. So I'll be going about my day not thinking about writing, and all of a sudden, I believe it's divine inspiration will flash a title in my head, and within seconds of pondering it, I know whether I'm going to write that book or not.
Wow.
And I already know my next 3 books because that's what has happened. Now, this book came into my mind initially as with a different title. So it did change by the time we got to publication, but that's how the process happens. And so this book was in there in my mind as like, okay, this is something that I'm being called to write about. And I resisted it because the dialogue in my mind was like, no one really needs another productivity book. Think about how many productivity books we could name, like Eat That Frog and by Brian Tracy, and The 4-Hour Work Week, and on and on and on. We could just list a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, why do I need to write this? But then in private conversation or conversations with my clients in private coaching, uh, the year before I wrote this, I kept having these conversations where people were struggling just to get it together on a daily basis.
Mm,
And by that I mean, like, you know, the questions. I'll give you one example. A really brilliant salesperson in Texas who I've worked with off and on for years called me and said, "Hey, I need some help." Okay, great. Now, this person is by all means a top producer, very successful. Her clients love her, has always made great money. Um, and what surprised me is her question was, "I just need you to help me. What do I do when I go to the office?" And I was
mm,
like, "Okay, I, talk more, because like clearly you have a track record that shows me that you know what to do when you go to the office. Like, what's wrong?"
right.
And so in her particular case, she had just lost, like, things that happened in her life, and she just lost all motivation and felt like she was at
Mm,
ground zero. And that's when I realized, like, okay, this can happen to the most accomplished person, let alone someone brand new in the business. And then as I
yeah.
expanded my coaching that year, I started taking on brand new agents, most of, or not agents, self-employed people. And I realized, okay, I've been self-employed my entire life. I left college after 2 semesters, and I didn't want to go work for somebody else. I just knew in my gut that was not going to go well. Um, as a kid, I was the "you're not the boss of me" kid my entire life. So having a boss for a paycheck, it just something told me, like, that maybe is not going to work out well. so
Right.
so I was like, okay, I've just lived this life for almost 30 years now, in it, where working for myself and getting up and knowing what to do, everything from a morning routine to how to get into your day, how to
Mm,
finish a day, how to plan a week, how to plan a quarter, how to plan the whole year. Like, when you've always done this since 18 years old, it becomes just something that you do, and you forget, oh, I had to learn this, and it's been so long ago that I had to learn it, that I forgot all of that.
mm,
And then the reason I say the book was stalking me is because not only was that happening with my private clients, but I kept bumping into podcasts from respected podcasters out there in various industries who were all geeking out about each other's morning routines. And it just seemed to be like this never ending search for the perfect morning routine. And so usually that topic I would skip. If that was going to be on the episode of a particular podcast, I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't need that, and I'd skip it. But one particular guy who I respect a lot, he um, he made this big deal about how on the next episode there's going to be this groundbreaking conversation of stuff in the morning routine he's never considered before. And so I'm like, okay, I was doubtful, but I tuned in. And Jamie, what happened is I'd sit there and I listen to these two gentlemen geek out about morning routines for an hour, never really say much new of anything. And I'm like, I don't believe it. If I
Mm,
did everything that you say you do, by 1 o'clock, I would be exhausted and I wouldn't even be able to do any meaningful work. And so that's when it clicked. It's like, you know what? I have to write this book because there's just so much um, what about misdirected advice? I don't
yeah.
think any, yeah, I don't think anybody who is trying to talk about this issue is being deceitful on purpose.
Yeah.
I think some of them really do, on a certain amount of days, do what they say they do on these podcasts, but
Mm,
consistently, I don't buy it, because if you're the if your morning routine doesn't end until noon, well, okay,
yeah.
you're
How
not
are
going to
you?
get any meaningful work done, right?
You don't have much day left.
Right.
Probably not a
So
lot
I
of
was like,
energy. Uh,
and so I was like, okay, well, I've spent many years challenging self-employed people. A lot of them, they might be realtors or insurance salespeople, or own their own law firm or marketing firms, where a huge part of their job is to generate leads, to prospect,
yeah.
so that they can find clients. Um, and so I found a lot of success convincing people who I worked with to just get that done before 1 o'clock. It was like a way I would try to trick them
Mm,
into success. on a task that they naturally resisted. You know, like who wants to get on the phone or like just start reaching out to their network only to be rejected? No one wants to do that. But if I can convince them just to get it done in the morning, just get it off your plate. And then if the afternoon falls apart, who cares? You're going to get responses. You're going to find clients.
It's true.
And I'm like, okay, so this has broad application. Clearly, the topic keeps getting thrown in my face. This search for the perfect morning routine is a little bit unbalanced, and I have things I need to say about it. And, you know, six
Yeah.
months later, there's the book. Mhm.
That's awesome. There's so much just in that that we can really dig into, and I can attest that, you know, really focusing on that activity for the first part of the day as a leader has really helped me. And,
Yeah.
you know, you can often make I can often make excuses as to not tackle that. So I think so many of the topics in the book, including that, apply to people stepping into leadership roles as
Mhm.
well, and really tackling those first tasks that maybe seem not exciting to them at first, or might, you know, bring in a little bit of fear. And so that takes me down a path that I want to focus on for a bit, and it's all around the topic of mindset.
Mhm.
And mindset is one of your big mantras.
Mhm.
Is what I say. It's Jason's mantra, and it fills the book. Like there's so many chapters of the book where you relate something back to, or an example back to a mindset. And so having both a, you know, here's the broken mindset and here's the empowering mindset. And so you actually have a concept called set your mind. And I'd love to just get your perspective for a moment on why mindset is such an important thing to focus on as an entrepreneur, as a leader, and how it can really drive success.
Sure. Okay. So let's bridge what we were just talking about to what you just asked. So if we think about the morning routine, the purpose of a morning routine is very simple, just to get you up into a positive state of mind and into a position where you've built momentum into your day so that then you start tackling the most important topics. Okay. So that's it. It doesn't have to be this long, elaborate thing. In the book, I give a framework that people can use or not use, but at a minimum, there's inspiration to design your morning routine so that you tackle your mindset and you're building momentum into a day so that you have the energy and the inspiration necessary to do those things
Mm.
that move the ball forward. If you're in sales for the organization, or if you're a solopreneur, automatically you're in sales, then it's lead generation. But whatever else you do in your organization, we all have things that are uh, that we hold responsibility for that we must accomplish in order for the organization to move forward. So it applies to everybody. And the reason the mindset is so well for anyone who hasn't read the book, it's divided into two parts. The first part is the tactical strategies that you would need so that you could consistently finish the most important work that you need to do each day consistently before 1 p.m. And then because you work for yourself or you can make other choices, you can do whatever you want after that and basically not feel guilty because you've
Right.
you've already you've already
It
done things
does.
that you needed to do. Yeah.
Right.
Um, and but then the second half is all about mindset. And the reason I wrote that is because I have seen
Mm.
brilliant people who know far more than me about sales and business and life just flailing
Mm.
because all that knowledge is useless if they don't have their mind straight, if they're not thinking correctly. One of my mentors, Zig Ziglar, it's passed away many years ago, but he used to call it stinking thinking. And
Right.
yeah, so
I've heard that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And conversely, I've seen, you know, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, challenged.
Mm.
people, like people who are not very talented, people who aren't very smart, who, if you were to look at them, you would question whether they'd be ever successful in life, but they are successful because they actually do operate on a daily basis with a powerful mindset, and
Mm.
that overcomes their lack of skill.
Mm.
And so I realized, okay, you can't have one without the other. And because there's so much talk these days about mindset, I think all of it is good. But my contribution to it is to take the word mindset and break it up to help you understand that mindset is not something that you have. It's like if you're in a conversation about mindset and you're talking about mindset as something that you have and it's either good or bad, and maybe depending on your mood that day, you have a good mindset or a bad mindset.
Right.
That I think that's a just a too basic of an interpretation of the topic. I think it's important, if you want it to be meaningful in your life, to take the word mindset, and anytime you hear it, think set your mind, because that's what you have to do.
Mm.
Um,
That's good.
you have to take control at some point if you want to be successful in whatever it is that you're going to do in life, and even in personal relationships. You have to make the decision that whatever is going on in your mind is directly controlled by you and you alone. Um, I was sitting with my hairstylist the other day, and she was talking about somebody that was irritating her, and she called them energy vampires.
Oh,
And she said, these energy vampires, I need to weed them out of my life because they're sucking all of my energy out and they're making me feel bad. And I had to stop her because she
mm.
also turns to me for this kind of advice. And I said, now listen, here's something I had a mentor teach me long ago. There's no such thing as an energy vampire, because if you believe
Mm.
that there are vampires out there stealing energy, you also believe in scarcity in the universe. You're saying that, okay, there's only a limited amount of positive energy out there. And if you take some of mine, then I'm going to suffer.
Mm.
The flip side of that is, if you believe you live in an abundant universe, then there's no such reason to think that way. There is no limit to energy at all, positive or negative. There's only how we interact with it. And
Right.
so if you're being a negative person, then I have a choice. I can either lower my vibration and my thoughts to match your negativity, or I can stay above it. It's way easier said than done. But
Mm-hmm.
if anyone listening is interested in living a life where you take ultimate responsibility for your experience on the planet, then it's a requirement to practice and learn. And what better way to do it than and next time that person that irritates the crap out of you is doing that thing that they do that irritates the crap out of you and normally puts you in a bad mood, that's your opportunity to practice. Oh, like, okay, life has given me a chance to
Right.
make the decision, like, no, I'm not. And it could be like, for me, every day I get a chance to practice this on the road,
I think we all do.
because the people who slow down at yellow lights, who are these people? You don't slow down at a yellow light. You see what I mean?
Yeah, you
So
would
it
be
could.
my son's biggest fan. He hates
Ah.
that. Oh,
But my point is, like, you can take a tiny little thing like
right.
driving in traffic and use that to practice for the bigger moments, like maybe when you're at
Right.
home and you've had a hard day and you're tired, and honey does that one thing that gets on your nerves, and then you realize, oh, this is just like the yellow light in traffic. I can choose to lower my energy
Right.
and get all upset, or I can use this as an opportunity to set my mind
Hmm.
in a different way. And once you do it in one area, you can start applying it to any other area, including at work.
Right. No, that's
Mm-hmm.
so good. And I think it's the creating the awareness for people, like everyone listening. Now you know, you're now aware. And I will definitely say that when you talked to me about this the first time,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden I had a lot of opportunities. Like I don't know if it was because I was more aware
Yeah.
or what, or if in fact it's like, okay, here we go. We're going to get some practice sessions in here for you.
Yeah.
Um, but it is a continual, it is a continual process, but I think we can get better at it as those opportunities come our way, is like catching it and realizing what's happening in my mind, what's happening in my body, like how I'm feeling, how I'm reacting, and then set our minds on the way we truly want to be walking, leading, thinking.
Yeah. And it's so important in the morning. I use an analogy in the book comparing the mind to a smartphone battery, which is
Mm,
something I think everybody can understand. Um, when we go to sleep at night, it's the equivalent of plugging our phone in
right,
to the charger, right? Most people, you sleep with your phone charging next to your bed, and then when we basically what we do in the morning now in modern society is we unplug ourselves from the bed and we unplug our phones from the charger, and now both our brains and our phones have a full charge. So now we don't want to waste that charge because
right,
every time every time you tap and scroll on the phone, what happens? It sends a signal to the processor, which has to use energy to do something. And then it slowly drains down the battery. And then everybody has had that experience where at some point during the day,
right,
your phone goes on, like you get that message. Do you want to go on power save mode? So if you hit yes, then your phone is going to deliberately slow down or stop certain functions altogether in order to save power until you can get to the next plug to charge in, right?
right,
Well,
right.
that happens to human beings as well. I notice it myself. I notice it in everybody that's around me and people that I work with,
Mm,
is that you have to set your mind in a positive mental state in the morning and do it deliberately every morning because that's when you have a fresh charge and everything that you pay attention to. So, like if you look at news or if you
mm.
are on social, which I hope people, whoever still does that, like just stop, okay?
All
And
right.
so that includes social, like social media. News sneaks in there. It's like when I say don't watch news, it's not like everyone's watching, Good Morning America. Like who watches that anymore? Um, but so anything that you give your attention to from the moment you wake up is an input. It's the equivalent of like tapping and scrolling on your brain.
Yeah.
It takes brain power to process these inputs that you're giving your attention to. And because at some point during the day, you'll have given out enough of your attention that your brain is going to go on power save mode. Almost everybody that I've ever worked with, that happens around midday. So that's another
Mm,
argument why being done before 1 is important because at some point, maybe it's not exactly 1 p.m., maybe it's 1:45 or 2:15 or 11:59.
right.
The exact time is irrelevant, but the concept is that just like your phone, your brain's going to go on power save mode. But unlike phones, we can't plug ourselves back in and in 20 minutes be back to full charge again.
Right.
We can take a little afternoon nap, which helps some, but the only way humans fully recharge is by a full night's sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so because we can't as of yet plug into an energy source, and like all the like the
Wish.
nootropic drugs and like caffeine and all that stuff, it's never as good. It's
Right.
never as good. You're never going to do your best work.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's another way to think about why it's so important to uh, take deliberate control of what's going through your mind, set it the way it needs to be set, so you're performing at your best self at least until 1. And then you know what? When people start out with this concept, I even encourage them to just not. If you have to let your mindset go to crap after 1 p.m. while you're practicing this, that's fine. See if you can keep
Yeah.
it together for the first half of the day. Then, if you want to be moody and upset for the rest of the day, okay,
So be it.
so be it. Like try it out for 3 months, and then after that, after you've proven you can do it for the first half of the day, then like maybe tackle the second half. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Right. Exactly. So much great information. There's a couple of things that, as you were talking, that just reminded me of some of the additional topics in your book all around this starting your day with momentum. And that's what you've
Mhm.
been talking about, is
Mhm.
having that routine, that strong routine, and how it helps to build momentum through your day. And often either I've done it or I've heard others say, well, I just can't do that because And here comes the excuses. Well, I'm not a morning person.
Right.
And so I'm really much more productive after 12 o'clock. Or, um, well, I just can't get up in the morning. I hit snooze multiple times. And uh, I actually personally was just really dealing with that for a
Okay.
season. I surprisingly, I'm normally a morning person, but I was so worn out that the clock would start going off in the morning, and here went the routine of snooze, 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 and totally not effective. So I like in your book how you really tackled this, and I'd like you to challenge us a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, Pete. Well, okay. So first of all, no one's perfect. I don't know. I'm not ever going to be on a podcast trying to claim that I have my stuff together every single day. Um, I, I can look into the camera and say on the overwhelming majority of the days I've got it together.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I'd be lying if I said, like anybody trying to claim they've got it all perfectly figured out is just not being honest with you. So we'll start there. But um, you know, I just I thought of a young man who was going from entertainment. He was a musician, a drummer. This is in Austin, where you live.
Okay.
And he came to me and he wanted to go into the real estate industry. He had his license. He wanted to sell homes and um, pivot into that career eventually.
Hmm.
And he was one of the most intense personalities I've worked with, where he was bringing this excuse of like, my whole life has been opposite of what you're trying to get me to do. Like, I do my best
Mm.
work when it's like midnight. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
great,
wow.
except you're not going to be showing any houses at midnight. So there's that.
True.
But in any case, he was using his habits. He was using his long established habits as justification for why he couldn't change or even try to change.
Mm.
Um, long story short, he realized pretty quickly that if he wanted honest success in the real estate industry, he was going to have to find a way to completely flip his world, his habits upside down, which he did, and he's successful today. But people who bring excuses to this idea of getting up at a reasonable hour and moving into their day with momentum and with intention. Um, if people who are resisting that, it's usually because of fear, fear of not knowing what to do, fear of failure, uh, lack of clarity about what they want out of their business or their life. Okay. And when those things happen, this is why I tackle a little bit of it in the mindset section in section 2 of the book. But it's important because you can't have productivity conversation without dealing with these mindset topics, and
Mm.
excuses that we use is right up there at the top of that list. And so
Yeah.
um, to get back to your question, um, again, this whole concept of a morning routine has nothing to do with getting up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. or making you feel bad if you're not getting up at 5 a.m. Maybe you choose to get up at 5:30 or 6. Like all of that, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you choose it deliberately, okay, and um, that you set your day up so that you naturally want to pop out of bed with
Mm.
enthusiasm. Okay. So this is the old sales trainer in me. If you think of the last 4 letters of the word enthusiasm, IASM can be an acronym. I am sold myself. So in this context, what I'm saying is, I might pose a question. If you are struggling waking up, feeling inspired and energized, like you want to go tackle the day, are you sold yourself on what you're doing?
Mm.
Maybe it's time for a career change or a different position in the company or changing to sell a different product. The older I get, the more I realize that time is our most precious resource, and I deliberately choose not to do things that don't inspire me
Mm.
or that I'm not excited to get out of bed to do. Like today, this conversation with you was part of what got me out of bed, because I'm thinking, great, I wrote a book. That's exciting. I wanted to do that. And Jamie wants me on our podcast, and I like Jamie. I want to be on her podcast. Like when I
Yeah.
woke up, there was no like hitting the snooze.
Mm.
It was like almost like I need to get up now because I don't want to waste any second because I'm excited about today.
Yeah.
Now, for anybody listening, I should say this. You might be at a point in your life where maybe you're just starting out, and maybe you have to make compromises because right now you just need to build cash flow. Right now you just
Yeah.
need to pay. Not right now you just need to
Right.
pay the bills, or you're new at something and you can't choose um, you can't choose on such a granular level what you do moment to moment because you're learning and you're an apprentice. Like I don't know, I'm trying to allow for situations where people aren't in my position, because currently I can get up and do whatever I want, but it wasn't always that way. I had to set the intention to get to this place in life, and then once I got here, make sure that I kept myself here by recognizing, oh, okay, um, the basics is not only what will get you to a place in life you want, but it's what will keep you there. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be complicated. But again, setting your mind means, okay, I wake up and I have positioned myself to where I'm doing things that I'm naturally enthusiastic about. And there are other little tricks like the morning routine, and getting up and out of bed and building energy quick starts the night before.
Yeah.
You know, so that's also not discussed very often when people bring up routines and starting their day. Is like the day actually start. So like my grandpa used to teach me how to lay the man of clothes. I'm not sure if people can picture that. Like, you know, I don't know if people do it much anymore, but like you choose your outfit for the next day before you go to bed and lay it out on the chair
Mm.
so that like it's all there. You know, it's like
Yeah.
gentlemen used to do this all the time, like back in, you know, and when my grandpa was young, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still a thing for most people, but I still do that. What I want to wear is out there, so I don't have to make that decision. Um,
Yeah. One less
these
decision.
Yeah, these days I'm finding new ways to have to wake up even more energized, and that is
Yeah.
to if I'm going to touch a device after the sun goes down, I'll have my they're not here. They're in the other room, but was going to put my blue blocker glasses on,
Oh, right.
and that you hear about it, but it's made a significant difference in my sleep quality.
Mm.
Really, I don't want to have my devices even in my hands when I come in or when I'm finished with work for the day, but it happens, right? So that help if I'm watching TV after the sun goes down, got the glasses on. It's weird at first. It makes every device you look at look less appealing, which should
Mm.
tell us something right there. You know, like
Right.
the color coming off the screens is designed to keep us trapped, and then we don't sleep well, and then we have problems getting our work done before one because we're not well rested.
That's true.
Um, and
So
then
true.
yeah, so blue light.
Mm.
If for everybody listening, blue light after sundown or before sunrise is like we're learning it's a bad thing. So go down that rabbit hole if you want, and that will help you build energy in the morning. Um, but I also talk about this. I can't remember where I first heard this. This is not an exclusive to me concept, but for those who have never heard of activation energy,
Mm.
activation energy is something that can help you until you find, like, ideally you would come out of sleep and you become conscious again. You know you're awake, and your life is designed such that you don't need any tricks to get out of bed. You just want to. But until you get there, you can employ the concept of activation energy. So in like chemical engineering, activation energy is the amount of energy required for two chemicals to react and do something like combust.
Mm.
You need energy to trigger that chemical reaction. So if you take that concept and think about it in like just human psychology, activation energy is something that you would do as soon as you become conscious that you're awake to springboard you out of the bed if you aren't naturally
Inclined.
enthusiastic about getting out. Or, you know, like I'll even use this like if I'm just having a bad day, or like you said, if I'm sick or I'm tired,
Yeah.
or particularly sometimes if you're pushing yourself farther than you have in the past, and you're just like, oh, you got to battle self-doubt. Am I really doing this? Am I really going to go this far today, or whatever?
Right.
On days like that, you need activation energy. So for me, um, it's get up, go jump in the shower,
Mm.
cold shower. It didn't take long, not even 30 seconds. And I don't even need it for, like these fitness bros out there who are like all into like the cold
The cold
baths and like
plunge and
that's cold plunges. Like, nah, I don't do that. I tried it. I tried it for a
yeah.
year and I felt great. But I learned long term for me, it's really just something I can do to activate my
Yeah.
body so that basically using the body to activate the mind. That would be the reaction. You use your body deliberately to activate the mind, and that could be putting on your shoes, going
Mhm.
outside and walking around the block, or putting on your shoes and going straight to the car and going to the gym and getting your workout done.
Yeah.
you know that's the hardest part. The hardest, like, people say, what's the hardest part about working out in the morning? It's not the workout, it's just putting on your shoes when you get out of bed. That's the hardest part, because if you got your shoes on, like, well, shit, I got my shoes on, I might as well just go to the car.
Let's
you're
go.
you're in the car, like, I might as well drive to the gym. You're at the gym, like, I might as well go inside. You're
Yeah.
on the treadmill, might as well start the treadmill. Before you know it, you leave the gym and you feel great,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Oops.
Exactly.
Anyway,
So, no,
that's what
that's
activation energy is.
I love that. And, as I was sharing just personal
Sorry. Being too enthusiastic about my
I
own
know.
message here.
Throwing things around. Yeah, just, personal experiences. I hadn't been feeling that great about, myself. So my mindset was kind of, flailing in some places
Right.
and just from the physical standpoint. So just not feeling good. I didn't really have a lot of energy. I hadn't been working out like I wanted to. And I thought, well, I'll start after the holidays.
Mm,
And I actually posted about this week. It's like that sounded when I started to think about that and I actually said it out loud, it sounded ridiculous.
yeah.
Of like, why would you do that? If you want to see a change right now, start now.
Hmm.
So I did, and I set my mind on really looking at some of those practices you've walked us through today. And it started with the nighttime routine and when I was getting to bed
Hmm.
because I desire to step into the next day with energy and clarity and creativity, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I completely changed my routine. I started getting to bed earlier and waking up earlier and going to the gym that first thing in the morning. And I stopped hitting the snooze button and
Hmm.
actually jumped out of bed, got my clothes on, and I purposely work out at a place where you get charged if you don't show up to what you signed up for.
Oh, that's cool. I like it.
So that's
Negative
another
reinforcement.
exactly. Like, so that's definitely a motivator. Like, I'm not going to pay extra. Um, but in a matter of 3 days, I could see a change,
Yeah.
noticeable in
Yeah.
my attitude, my mindset, how I felt about myself, my energy
Hmm.
level, and quite frankly, my creativity.
Hmm.
Ideas were beginning to flow again, and it just took a bit of an adjustment. And I think that is a really a key message that you share in your book. You've talked about today is people just need to experiment, but do it. Like, let's just drop the excuses and let's set our minds on getting to the place where we want to get. And it just takes some of that experimentation to determine what's going to work for us.
Yeah, I like a couple things you said there. In Like, you and I have done work to overcome limiting beliefs in the past, and a lot, like with you and all of my private clients, what sometimes we'll do is speak out those limiting beliefs. And when you hear your own voice vocalize the limiting thought that's in your mind, it sounds ridiculous. And if that doesn't work, writing it down and staring
Mm,
at it once you've written it on a piece of paper and then say it
yeah.
out loud, just like, ugh, it's the starting point of
Right.
helping a person let it go.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I like that you brought up is this idea of creativity. Okay, so one of the concepts in the first part of the book, the tactical portion, there are these principles, and one of the principles of living a done before one lifestyle, because I do believe it's a lifestyle.
Mm,
It's done before one is not just a title for the book. It's a way of thinking like, okay, my lifestyle, the way I operate and move through the world is that I'm going to build this habit of consistently, as often as I can, getting my most important work done before one. And then I'm going to do whatever else I choose to do in life, but I'm never going to be in a position where I beat myself up in the evening.
yeah.
Okay. So now, um, I'm sure most of the people listening are going to have to be creative in their jobs in some form or fashion. And because you brought up creativity, one of the principles in here in this lifestyle is to put your agenda first.
Hmm.
Okay. This
Yeah.
is important. This is important because a lot of us are naturally people pleasers.
Mm.
We like to say yes. It makes us feel good when people ask us to do things to say yes. Um, we will use requests from other people as excuses not to do the hard things we know we need to do. Right? Yeah, yeah. Because you
I'm
know,
in it. I'm in it.
yeah. If a coworker comes to you and asks you for something, like, how do you say no? But like, it's so easy. If I don't want to do
Yeah.
this thing over here that I'm resisting, and you ask me something, I can still claim I'm working, but I'm not doing. Am I doing what I should be doing?
Right.
Probably not. Okay. So that's a whole thing. It's like the way you develop the mindset and the conviction to put yourself first
Mm.
every day. Um, a big part of that is growing to the point where you understand that that's the responsible thing to do for your clients. If you don't put yourself first and take care of what you should be doing to be your best self at work or in a relationship, you're never going to be able to give what you should be giving to your clients or to your personal relationships. And
Yeah.
so it's not a selfish thing. It's actually putting yourself first to be the best version of yourself that you can is actually more selfless once you spend more than a few seconds thinking it through. Okay.
Yeah. So
And
true.
now, but to come back to creativity, is that when you're putting yourself first, here's tactically what that part of what that means. You got to stay off. You got to weed out those inputs.
Mm.
So it would be a shame for someone to do a whole bunch of activities or just the activities that they need to do to get themselves into a positive mental state, ready to tackle their things for the day, and then you know 90 minutes later be completely off track. Like, what's the point of a morning routine if halfway through the morning you're off track? Like, it
Yeah.
I don't it's like, why even do it? might
Right.
as well just might as well just go into the office distracted if you're just going to get distracted anyway.
Right.
So so if you have to be creative, you have to put yourself first. You have to lock out everybody else's agenda. And everything that you give your attention to comes with someone else's agenda. So the tweet, the Instagram post, the email, the text message, the phone call, the person showing up if you work in a physical office, showing up
Yeah.
at your door, all of that comes with other people's energy. And I'm not saying don't deal with it, but I'm saying think
Yeah.
through when you deal with it. Because if you have to be creative, your mind needs space
Hmm.
to be quiet.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
does.
if part of what you have to do for your business is write a newsletter or write a blog post or write those things that come with your agenda that are going to go out into the world, you can't do that and consume other people's material.
Right.
It blocks your creativity. So you have to put your agenda first, and you have to produce what you need to produce before you consume uh, what other people have produced.
What they're throwing at you. And I love
Mhm.
the phrase you use in the book of when that comes at us. So and I can actually be the one, trying to invade someone else's creative space,
Yeah,
as a leader manager,
yeah.
Um, but I love the phrase of just saying, I can't then, I'm booked. And there's no other explanation. And I
Mm.
love what you describe in the book about we often will try to explain. It's like, well, nobody really needs to know all of that and probably doesn't really care and will absolutely just say, okay, let's find another day and time.
Right. So there's two phrases that you're referencing here. I'll cover both of them because they have slightly different applications. The first one is 4 words: love to, can't now. So everybody just remember, jot those down, put them in the back of your mind. Love to, can't now. If you are in an environment where you work around other human beings and someone comes up to you and asks you, "Hey, Jason, do you have a minute?" Like, right? It's like, hey, this is why I had to come up. I had to like write about this because how many times has someone said to you, "Hey, do you have a minute?" Well, first of all, they don't want a minute. Okay, they want
30
however long. Yeah,
or
like who
more.
knows? They want however long they need to like tell you what's on their mind. That's
Right.
why they walked over you in the first place, right? Okay, so they want that time, and then it takes like I don't know why my brain is not remembering. It takes like what is it, 17 minutes?
Oh,
So I
yeah.
researched for the book and then I forgot the exact amount of time. I'm not sure why I can't recall that right now, but it takes quite a bit more time than people realize for a person who has allowed an interruption
Mm,
to um, uh, to get refocused on the task. So, you know, when you start doing the math and looking at how much time you have during a day, it doesn't take too many instances of someone saying, "Hey, do you have a minute?" to throw you completely off track. So to
right.
counteract that, you don't have to explain yourself when you're in focus mode. If someone comes up to you and says, "Do you have a minute?" just say, "I'd love to, can't now." And they'll just go away. If you want to vary that phrase to fit your personality, fine. But the point behind it is that, again, if you're going to take complete responsibility for your day and make sure that you get your most important work done before 1, then you have to understand that no one can interrupt you, but you can interrupt yourself,
Yeah.
right? So if you stop what you're doing and you give your attention to this person that said, "Hey, do you have a minute?" Unless they were holding a gun to your head, like you didn't have to do that. That was your choice. So you can't blame other people for interrupting you.
Right.
If you answer the phone, if you allow yourself to get distracted and doom scroll for 20 minutes and now you lost those 20 minutes, well, you did that. No one else
Yeah.
did that. So you have to take responsibility for that. And when people say, "Do you have a minute?" If you don't have a minute, just say, "I'd love to, can't now." Um, another phrase that you mentioned is "can't then, I'm booked." So it's similar
Mm,
idea, 4 words to help you remember to hold your boundaries without feeling it necessary to explain yourself to other
mhm.
people. If someone wants to, let's just say you've decided that after you finish your morning routine, you're going to spend from 8 a.m. to 9:30 on lead generating activities for your business or for your organization. Okay.
Okay.
If you decide that, universe is going to come test you. The second you block that time out in your calendar, someone is going to say, "Hey, Jamie,
Yep.
can you meet at 9 o'clock tomorrow?" Well, so what do? Well, one option is what a lot of people do who get stuck in people pleaser mode is they'll say, "Okay, well, sure." And they'll agree to the meeting and then they'll take that maybe sometimes if they don't, most people would just delete it. They're like, "Okay, well, that's my excuse not to have to go
Region,
face
right.
rejection today. I don't have to find clients or ask donors for money because that makes me feel nervous. But, Jamie wants to meet with me at 9, so I'm going to go do that instead."
Right.
That's what most people do.
Yep.
Then there are other well-meaning people who will take that block of time and they'll bump it down. Okay, well, I'll do my lead generation after I meet with Jamie. Of course, energy is not the same. You've
Right. Right.
compromised. You're kind of telling yourself that you don't hold your own commitments, which is dangerous long term. Okay. Um, but then people operating at a high level will honor their commitment to themselves.
Mm,
They said, "Well, look, it's my time on Earth. I decided that on tomorrow morning between 8 and 9:30, I'm going to do this activity." So when someone decides they want that time as well, all I have to say to them is, "I can't then, I'm booked." And here's what's not going to happen. No one is going to say, "Oh yeah, booked doing what?"
Prove it.
Yeah. People aren't that confrontational.
No.
They're gonna assume that whatever your book doing is like super important.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to justify anything to anybody. Just say, can't then I'm booked. And guess what? Then they'll propose another time.
Yeah.
And you can negotiate it out and meet with them when it's right for you.
Yep. That's so good. I mean,
Mhm.
so powerful too. Oh gosh, we have talked quite a bit today and it's been amazing and we'll definitely want to have you back because there's so much. Like there's so many more
Yeah.
topics that we could dive into and talk for hours. But we will wrap up this episode with maybe just something, either a piece of advice or either a book, a podcast, or something, someone that you follow that would continue to help inspire people. I mean, I'll say absolutely done before one.
Thank you.
But maybe there's something on your mind that you would share with listeners that they would truly value. So,
Got it. Like, are you asking maybe where they would something they could continue their on this journey, like other books and things that they would read?
yeah, a book that really framed or informed some thought process you have, or a podcast you really enjoy listening to, or just someone you follow that's like, hey, I go follow this person. I think you'd be inspired by them. But
Got it. So, do dead people count?
sure.
Okay. So, while he was alive, I got an opportunity to mentor with Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he's sold hundreds of millions of books across the world, during his time on the planet. And I don't know why this one particular book is coming to mind out of all. I've read everything that he's written that I could get my hands on. I've read a lot of the stuff multiple times. And so if you can listen, if just search his name and you'll find podcasts. So if you love podcasts, then just any audio from Dr. Dyer, you're going to love. But specifically, I forget which year, but he published a book called Excuses BEGONE.
Mm.
And that is a book, like if you're a person that struggles with pleasing people or fully owning your own power in the world, at work or in your personal relationships, Dr. Dyer's book, Excuses BEGONE, will help you with that.
Wow.
It really is a groundbreaking book. And it came at a time when he was such a prolific writer. He was turning out so much good content at the time that the book right before that was super successful. And it still had a lot of momentum going, that I think that I almost wish he would have waited another year before releasing Excuses BEGONE, because I feel like it got overshadowed by the one that was still getting a lot of attention before it.
Yeah.
But it's still out there and easily accessible.
Awesome.
And so, yeah, I definitely recommend that one.
Great. Well, thank you so much for everything today, Jasen. I truly appreciate it.
So welcome.
So appreciate it. And we will see you again soon.
Okay, let's do it again.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and contact us at hello@bloomcommunications.com if you're ready for business growth.